Hi, welcome to the Rittner Floral School in Boston, Mass. I'm Dr. Steve Rittner, and it's a pleasure to welcome you into one of our classrooms today. We have a really neat demonstration planned for you. You probably have seen these in several of our other demonstrations before. We've experimented with some watermelons. We've shown you in past demonstrations how you can take a watermelon and come up with a very classical interpretation of a design. Then we took the top part of the watermelon and we also played with it, coming up with something that was a little bit more contemporary. Now in this demonstration, we're going to take both the bottom part of the watermelon and the top part of the watermelon, and we're going to come up with something really funky. So that between these three demonstrations that you see in our video series, you can see a wide variety of styles and approaches being used to come up with interpretations that I think you'll find kind of neat and interesting. So let's go to work on it. In both of these containers, we happen to have foam. In the one on the right, you'll notice that we've got foam peeking through. It is in a plastic container, a liner. In the one to the left, we've got some of our foam, which is wrapped by plastic wrap. This is so that we won't have any problems in terms of leakage, and it'll protect the area a little bit better as we poke things in and have water coming off. In doing this, we're going to play with some materials, and I think you're going to find this really kind of fun and funky. We're going to start with some of our large leaves. We can use either tea leaves or aspidistra leaves to come up with the effect that we want to. And on this particular one, I'm going to place two of my leaves. I'm going to place one over slightly to the left, and I'm going to place the other one over slightly to the right, coming up a little bit higher. So this should feel somewhat similar to the contemporary design that we made in one of our other video clips. But we're going to play with this a little bit more, and we're going to develop it a little bit more. I'm going to also add some of my river cane or bamboo. And I'm going to take some of my river cane or bamboo and actually extend the height of our design by adding a couple of pieces of our river cane coming up just a little bit higher. Now, my viewer, I want you to make sure you can see this. Notice that by adding our river cane this way, it extends the height of our design, comes up a little bit higher than our leaves. I'm going to place two of these here like so. I'm going to continue this motif of playing with some of our river cane on our second base, taking another few pieces of our river cane and placing them in a similar manner, staggering the heights so that we come up with an interesting effect. So notice that with a few pieces of river cane and a couple of our leaves, we're coming up with something that's going to be rather interesting. I'm going to take some of our kiwi vine, and I'm going to play with that also in this design. I'm going to start with one piece that's going to come over to this side and come swinging out dramatically over on this side. And I have a couple more pieces, but I'll hold those for a few minutes, and we'll play with them shortly. Let's start actually adding some flowers to our composition. You've seen these before. Aren't these gorgeous? They're roses, they're pretty, they're beautiful. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working a few of my roses into my design. I'm going to place one up a little bit higher here, and I'm using the leaf, as it were, to frame it. Notice that it's kind of behind here. I'm going to place another one down here closer to my focal area, and I'm deliberately picking one that's rather open. I'm going to take another rose, and I'm going to place it over here in front of my second leaf so that I have another rose placed in there as well. I'm also going to play with another flower on this design as well. These are our mini sunflowers. Aren't they gorgeous? One of my favorite flowers. They're big, they're cheerful, they're bright, people love them, and whenever you see a mini sunflower, you always feel happy. I'm going to work a mini sunflower into this design as well, and I'm deliberately staggering it, once again coming up a little bit higher here so that it gives me an interesting effect. And although this is big, all the stuff we have going down below here is giving us some balance to it. And I'm also going to take another one of my mini sunflowers, but I'm going to cut it fairly short, and I'm going to place it just looking off slightly to one side over here. So it's kind of glancing out to that side, giving us kind of counterpoint to this. Let's do a similar kind of process over on the other side of our design. Let's again play with some of our roses. You notice that one of the interesting things that we're doing in this particular design here is that we're using both the top as well as the bottom section of our watermelon as a combination. In other words, we're using them both together to create a single design. We call that here at Rittner's Floral School modular floral art. Modular floral art, because we're using more than one piece together to come up with an effect. This kind of design that we're showing you today is great for party work. And this design would work very, very well, say, on a buffet for a party motif, and gives a very, very contemporary, with it kind of look. At Rittner's Floral School, we come up with all kinds of different design approaches. We do things that are classical. We also teach things that are a little bit more way out and a little bit funky. And we're going to work another rose over here. So you'll notice that we've got roses over on this side. We've got some over here. The two sections are tying in together very nicely. If I've used some mini sunflowers on my right side of the design, I also want to tie in a few over onto the left side. And so I'm going to place a mini sunflower right here, keeping it fairly close to my base over here. And then I'm going to take another small bud of a mini sunflower, and I'm going to place this over to one side over here, so facing outwards here. Notice that in this design, I have only used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of our roses, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 flowers total, but notice how it really makes an interesting splash. At this point, I'm going to take a little bit more of the kiwi vine. This was kiwi that we used here. You've seen this in one of the other demonstrations. I'm going to take a really wild looking piece, and I'm going to work it right here. So it curves around and adds a curve kind of effect, a little bit more dynamic kind of an effect that will give us counterpoint to the rigidity of our foliage, our river cane, and of our flowers. And I'm going to take another little piece of kiwi vine and place it slightly over here to one side, again to give us that dynamic counterpoint on it. So if you look closely, you'll see this kind of curved thing working along here and working out along here and giving us counterbalance with this. Isn't it interesting? Isn't it funky? Each one of these two sections could stand in and of itself as a design. Together, they make quite an impressive array, and this kind of design, again, would work very, very well for a buffet. It would work very, very nicely in an entry area. You could do all kinds of pretty things with this. It's not a table centerpiece, but it certainly is something that has a lot of very good use for summer parties and functions and things. And I think you can see how this kind of thing could also be used very effectively if we changed our materials and instead of using watermelons, used gourds or squash or perhaps pumpkins in the fall for some interesting effects. So I think you can see that this has a wide range of additional applications. I've taken some of my Spanish moss, I've added it in to cover my mechanics. I'm using some wire hairpins to hold it in place just to make sure it stays so that my mechanics are nice and finished off. Interesting, huh? I think you found that this is an interesting kind of an approach to floral design. We thank you for coming in and visiting with us today at Rittner's Floral School. At Rittner's Floral School, we teach styles ranging from classical to contemporary to even funky and way out. We hope you enjoyed this brief demonstration. Thank you.